Good morning, Superintendent.
Good morning.
My name is Alan Honner. I'm a lawyer with the Democracy Fund, and we share standing with the JCCF and Citizens for Freedom. Superintendent Earley, since this inquiry started, we've heard evidence about the importance of police independence and about how politicians should not interfere with that independence. You will agree with me that police autonomy is very important.
Yes.
And can we pull up ssm.can.nsc.402845. And Superintendent, you will not have seen this document before, but it's a readout of a conversation between the Prime Minister and the Premier of Ontario on February 10th. I just want to take you to parts of that document and then ask you a question about it. So can we scroll down just a little bit more? So if we look at this document now, the Premier and the Prime Minister are saying hello, and in the first big paragraph, Premier Ford says, "The bigger one for us and the country is the Ambassador Bridge and the state ground there. What I think is we got to stop the spread of these protests." And he goes on to say that the Attorney General is looking at legal ways to give the police more tools. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay, and in the next paragraph, if we can just scroll down a little bit, the Prime Minister says, first of all, they're not a legal protest. They're occupying a municipal street and are not legally parked. You shouldn't need more tools, legal tools. They are barricading the Ontario economy. And then later in that paragraph, he says, we got to respond quickly. And if I can take you to the next page, about halfway through, just from what you're seeing on the screen, the third paragraph from the bottom, the Prime Minister asks, has Windsor asked anything of the OPP? Have they made a formal request? And if you look at the Premier's response, he says, they've put that request in through the Solicitor General. I spoke to the Mayor, and that was the plan. You see that?
Yes.
And can we go to the top of the third page? And so we see the Prime Minister is asking, what are the next steps? And Premier Ford says, they'll act, but without directing them, it's hard to describe their game plan. They'll have a plan, unlike Ottawa, where they didn't have a plan. I'll get briefed tomorrow from the Solicitor General and we'll keep you updated. This is critical. I hear you. I'll be up their ass with a wire brush. Now, Superintendent, the question I wanted to put to you is, and I just want to be clear, you did not experience any political interference from anyone when you were carrying out your duties as the critical incident commander.
No, I did not.
And do you know of anyone else in the OPS, the OPP, the WPS, or any other police force who experienced inappropriate political pressure?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to just switch gears for a moment here. You told us earlier today about a conversation, telephone conversation you had with I believe it was Deputy Commissioners Harkins and DeMarco, and that was on February the 10th. And you told us today that they told you that Windsor was your priority and that it was a priority.
Yes.
And when I read your witness statement, I saw you said that. You described it as a priority, but you also described it in a different way. I won't take you there, but what you say in that statement is that they told you that Windsor was the priority. Does that sound right to you?
I knew it was stressed on me that it was a priority.
And was it the priority as opposed to a priority?
All I can speak to is that I knew it was my priority.
But you would agree with me that it was a very important priority,
Yes.
regardless of whether it was the most important.
Yes.
And given the economic impact of the Ambassador Bridge, it was possibly not just one of the most important priorities for Ontario, but also for the country.
Perhaps, but there was a lot of other issues that we had to consider.
Right, but we saw from the conversation between Doug Ford and Prime Minister Trudeau that at least for Doug Ford, it appears that Windsor is the priority.
Well, I can't speak to that. I wasn't involved in that
No, but
conversation.
you've seen the document. That's what it looks like when he says, for us. I'll just remind you of the language here. He says, the bigger one for us and the country is the Ambassador Bridge.
I can't speak to what he was thinking.
Okay, fair enough. Superintendent Earley, you can tell me, though, that, and to the credit of you and your team, that you managed to get this blockade at the Ambassador Bridge cleared within 2 days of your appointment as CIC.
Yes.
And you would agree with me then that you and your team managed to resolve one of the most urgent priorities in the country without the benefit of the Emergencies Act.
Correct.
Thank you. Earlier today, you spoke about swearing in RCMP officers.
Yes.
I think your evidence was that the POU officers did not need to be sworn in because they were enforcing the criminal code, but frontline officers would be enforcing municipal laws and provincial laws?
Possibly.
Possibly. And so you sort of creatively solved this problem by pairing them up with OPP officers.
And Windsor Police.
And Windsor Police.
Yes.
And I just don't understand this. I'm just wondering if you can explain it a little bit better. What additional power would that confer on the RCMP, or what benefit would that confer to Paramount like that?
In regards to having them sworn in?
Right. I mean, would this allow the RCMP, for example, to enforce provincial laws, or?
Yes.
It would.
Yes.
Thank you. And we heard today that you established an exclusion zone along Huron Church Road. And I believe we heard yesterday that exclusion zone was north of Tecumseh to the Ambassador Bridge. Does that sound right?
Yes.
And that's a distance of about 1 kilometer?
I believe it's more than that. I think it's about 3.
Okay. And when you gave us evidence today, you said you relied upon the criminal code to establish that exclusion zone?
Yes.
Do you agree that you could have also relied upon the Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act to establish that exclusion zone?
Yes.
Thank you. My friend from the Government of Canada asked you questions today about threats that were present in Windsor. You told us today that you've read the Hendon reports.
Yes.
Insofar as they concerned the municipalities under your care.
Yes.
And you would agree with me that in Windsor there was no extremist rhetoric.
That I can't speak to.
But if it was in the Hendon reports, you would agree with it.
Yes, I mean, it was Windsor's responsibility to be reviewing the Hendon reports in regards to activity in their area.
Okay, well, it's OPP 401688. I won't bring it up. Let me just move on. Can we pull up OPP 403038? Can you tell us who Karen Johnson was or is?
Well, the document.
I'm just asking while we're waiting for the
okay.
document to come.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with that name.
Well, we have an email here, and when it comes up, I suspect it will show an email from Karen Johnson to a number of people, including you and Commissioner Carrique.
Mm-hmm.
And can we just scroll down a little bit, please? A little bit further. Scroll up. Okay, this is not the document I'm looking for. Let me ask you a question, though.
Okay.
Would you agree with me that there were a total of 44 arrests in Windsor during this enforcement phase?
Yeah, I do believe that that was, again, the arrests were the responsibility of Windsor Police Service.
Right, and from what I recall, and you can just tell me if this is accurate or not, there were 88 charges approximately, and almost all of those were, about 44 were mischief and about 44 were breaching a court order.
I believe so.
And none of those are violent offenses.
Pardon?
Those two offenses are not violent offenses.
Right.
Thank you.
They can be. Everybody has, there's a potential of violence in any offense, really.
But if somebody was to commit a violent offense, they would typically be charged with something like assault or assault with a weapon.
Yes,
or assault
perhaps.
causing
It all
bodily
depends
harm.
on the reasonable and probable grounds.
Right, kidnapping,
exist.
forcible confinement,
Right.
murder, none of that. I'm just about to wrap up here. I just want to ask a question about maintaining the roads, because you told my friend that maintaining the roads was a priority, and you said to your officers that clearing the bridge is one thing, but maintaining the road is another thing. And I understand you were able to maintain the road. You're speaking about here on Church Road.
Yes.
Is that right? And you were able to maintain it by installing jersey barriers along the side of the road from the bridge to the 401?
Correct. Not exactly right to the 401, but yes.
Approximately.
Yes.
And that's a distance of 3 kilometers, I think.
Okay, that could be. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I'm not sure about the distances. We used other ways as well, the cement barriers along with officers deployed to the certain traffic stops too.
Right, and you had a traffic plan that you employed when you were doing that, right?
Correct.
And that traffic plan, I won't bring it up. I think I'm out of time, or very close to it. It's dated February 13th, 2022.
You
Yes.
have a couple of minutes. You're
I
not you're not near your time. I'll look at you when when you're close to it.
Well, I'll wrap up anyway and try and get some goodwill. Superintendent Earley, I take it it's obvious that if the traffic plan is dated February 13th, 2022, it was not contemplating the use of emergent powers conferred by the Emergencies Act.
No.
Thank you very much. Those are my questions.
Thank you.